Welcome to Community Forum. My name is John Goliatino. I'm your host. This evening we're doing a show on the MCCA organization, which has been in this area for 35 years, and we're going to get an update on it. It's been a while since they've been on the show. With me this evening is Joe Sullivan, who's the president, and along with Kay Schreiber, who's the community relations specialist. I want to welcome you to the show.
Nice to be here. Thank you, John.
Okay, you're welcome. A little bit, just for my viewers' sake, a little bit about yourself before we get into the questions, like what is MCCA for those that are new to the area. A little bit about yourself as to how long you've been in the Danbury area and how, maybe a little bit about your educational background and how you progressed there.
Sure. Yeah, I'm actually a licensed clinical social worker and have been the CEO at MCCA for 27 years, and I've been in the greater Danbury area. I live in Fairfield, been here for since 1977, so going on over 30 years.
Sometimes it feels like that.
Yeah. And my background in training and education, I have a master's degree in social work from the University of Michigan, and been doing this kind of stuff for my whole career.
Your whole career?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's very good. And Kay, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I moved to Danbury in 1977, so the same as Joe.
Same year.
31 years.
On the same train, right?
On the same train we came in, yeah.
Okay.
And I graduated from Western Connecticut State University in 1979 with my bachelor's in marketing. And I've done several jobs locally, including City Center Danbury and the Housatonic Valley Tourism District, so I've been very active.
You're a well-known face to many Danburyans.
Yes.
To say the least. Okay, now getting back to what would be the original question. What is MCCA for the new arrivals that are not aware of what it does and so forth, and what is your mission?
Yeah, well, our mission is to provide help and hope to people families, and organizations in preventing and overcoming alcoholism and other addictions. What we're about is, we started out as primarily an alcoholism education organization to make people aware of the risks and also the prognosis for treatment of alcoholism. Over the years, we evolved into dealing with all kinds of addictions, drugs, alcohol. We're doing things nowadays on nicotine addiction, and even gambling. Compulsive gambling is an area that we've, in the last probably 10 years, have gotten involved in.
I was going to ask you, what those things are considered addictions, like a sickness, as opposed to a social problem. They used to, send people to jail for, you drank too much or whatever.
Right.
And now that's a change in the way people look at this.
Yeah, I think more and more now people accept addiction as a disease. In the 1950s, actually, the American Medical Association declared alcoholism a disease, and then we think of it as a disease in two respects. One is its root causes are probably physiological and neurochemical in nature. The single biggest predictor of developing a drinking problem, and other drug problem for that matter, is having a family history. And that suggests that probably there's a genetic component to it. And there's been a lot of research in the last 5 to 10 years that really point to that there's genetic factors, and that it truly is a physiological or biochemical disorder.
Is that what all of the addictions, or is that just specific? Like, for example, alcohol is this way, whereas let's say you have a problem with sex addiction or a problem with gambling, that might be different, right? Or is that the same concept?
I think it's the same. I mean, I'm not a neurochemist or anything like that, but we know that, as I said, the genetic factor with alcoholism, and we know the most about that with alcoholism, because a lot of people drink, but not everybody develops a problem with it. And it seems that, or there's good evidence, that alcoholics metabolize alcohol differently than non-alcoholics. That it's just the way the body processes it is different. With the other drugs, but let's say some of the illegal drugs like heroin and cocaine and stuff like that, so too, not everybody who uses it develops an addiction or uses it. A lot of people maybe try it once or twice and then they don't do it anymore. But some people try it and then they get addicted and use it more and more. So that's, and I think that what the thinking with gambling and some of the other, that there may be something in the brain and the chemistry of the brain that triggers the addiction. The other thing that I did want to say too about alcoholism and other addictions as a disease, once somebody starts using, then changes in the neurochemistry occur. Some of those changes are short-lived, and some of them are longer lasting. Some of them may even be permanent. There's a member of our board of directors who's a prominent researcher at Boehringer Ingelheim, and through some of his work, they've ascertained that people who use ecstasy even once or twice develop permanent brain changes. That so much that they found that they develop Parkinson-like symptoms, that they're using those findings in the treatment of Parkinson's and other neurochemical, even Alzheimer's research and stuff. So that's an important thing, especially for young people. They think they can maybe experiment a little bit and, no problem. Well, some of the problems are long-lasting and even permanent, so it's nothing to mess around with.
So you have things that can combat these different addictions, because some of us, I never really thought of gambling as really an addiction. What I'm talking about as a kid. In fact, even alcoholics, that shows you what age category I'm in. That was was a change. By the time we got to the 70s, everybody recognized that, oh, that's got to be a drinking problem is really a disease.
Yeah.
But I think all of these addictions are a disease of some sort. It's a disease of the mind.
Yeah.
And there's the stronger people can do something and then stop from doing it further, where the weaker people they keep it up. And so you've got to combat that with some counseling, right? So
right. There's two things that group and individual counseling, what we call psychosocial supports. Self-help in all of the addictions, the 12-step programs, AA and NA and Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous are critical pieces in the recovery. But our treatment that we provide is whether it's outpatient treatment or residential treatment is all based upon group and individual counseling. Very much, most of the work gets done in groups, and one of the reasons for that is people who have addiction, alcoholism and other addictions, they isolate, they tend to isolate, they tend to think that they're alone and that nobody has what they have, and to get it, talking about it with other people, and of course that's a model that was developed in AA, and what we find is that that's the most useful approach to treatment. And then in the last 5 years or so, they're doing a lot of new pharmacological supports have been developed. And some of the best treatment occurs when people receive both some pharmacological support or medication as coupled with that psychosocial counseling, and recovery rates are very high when people follow the treatment plans and the advice of the counselor.
When there's a weakness there, you need that little helping hand.
Yeah.
So if there's something that help you along away from the drugs, the alcohol, or whatever.
And actually, I don't like to think of it so much as a weakness. Actually, in alcoholism, alcoholics actually have higher tolerance for alcohol than non-alcoholics. So maybe it's not a weakness, maybe it's too much of a strength that they can handle too much.
Well,
and
the proverbial, that guy's got a what you call a hole in his
hollow leg,
hollow leg, that's where it's going.
Yeah.
When you see a person putting away one drink after the other and they're stone sober,
Yeah.
or appear to be, and then it's that last drink, the 10th drink or something. Then they finally
It's one of the
get drunk.
characteristics of alcoholism in early stage is having a high tolerance. And so people who do have a high tolerance
Are more likely to become.
yeah, and they should be conscious of that and be aware of that.
Okay. So basically, you have people that can handle each addiction in the area. I guess one other question, then maybe we'll ask a marketing question, and that is, do you have any statistics as to, like I would imagine alcohol is the #1, and then drugs probably not that far behind, or do I got that wrong? Is it more drugs today than it is alcohol?
Well, I think alcohol is really a constant. In the 30 years that I've been heading up MCCA, or whatever, 27 years, the alcohol has always been the top drug of abuse that we treat. And then it varies from time to time. When I first started, heroin and was the second most prevalent problem. And then heroin kind of went by the wayside, and cocaine in the 80s and early 90s was a huge problem.
And people thought that was safer.
That's what happened,
Yeah.
that they thought that, and there's been epidemics of cocaine abuse in this country because every time that people begin to think it's innocuous, then you get more use and the problems develop. As a reaction to the emphasis on dealing with cocaine in the late, in the 80s and early 90s, then what came back was heroin again. And now the second biggest drug of abuse that we're dealing with is heroin. And in the last 5 or 6 years, a big thing is the prescription opiates, OxyContin and Percocet and Percodan and
the abuse.
Vicodin and that stuff, that many people get addicted to opiates on those prescribed drugs, sometimes in response to pain, dealing with pain.
Yeah, they may break a leg or something.
Yeah.
And they get that, and they just think, oh, this is going to ache for the rest of my life, and they just,
Or they just experience in some relatively minor pain, a broken limb or something like that, and the treatment of that. But they experience the euphoric effects of the drug, and then they continue to use it and get addicted to it, and then go on to heroin because heroin's easier to get and cheaper. So that's a big issue, especially with young people. We're seeing people come into our programs addicted to opiates that are in their early 20s.
Wow.
So it's a very scary, concerning thing. So one of our residential programs, our short-term residential, McDonough House,
right.
The average age has probably dropped by 5 or 6 years in the last few years.
Okay, well, we'll ask a marketing question here. So Kay's not sitting there. Marketing-wise, we have the traditional people that have the problems. People, if someone's going up to the Mohegan Sun 3 times a week or whatever, they probably got a gambling problem. If they're hanging out at the bar 6 nights a week and the regular, the obvious problems. But there's people that are maybe in a corporate setting. They may have a bottle in the bottom drawer or whatever.
Right.
Are you marketing to corporations that this is available also for corporations to sort of screen their employees, because they spend a lot of time developing talent,
Yes.
and then have them go down the hard way. It's easier to catch them before they're hitting bottom.
Actually, I am beginning to visit some local corporations. Last week I went in to see Cardis, and I think I'll be seeing Beringer Ingelheim soon. And I often visit doctors, lawyers, social workers, other nonprofit organizations who deal with people who may potentially have a problem or develop a problem. I mean, our efforts are, multi-pronged. And
Early intervention is much better than letting them hit bottom first.
Education and the knowledge. One of my main jobs is MCCA is here.
Yeah.
And this is what we do, and we're here to help. And if you ever need us, or you have a question, or have a client or a patient or whatever, please give us a call. That's what we're there for.
All right. we have certain restrictions, Comcast rules about how far we can go. So, I guess the other thing is the area that MCA covers. You know, in other words. Do you cover up as far as New Milford and down to Stamford and over to the Connecticut River, or you know, what kind of range do you have in Connecticut?
I think when we first started, and Joe can respond to this, but I think when MCCA came into being as a nonprofit back in 1972, I think it was a more localized effort. But we continue to grow, and basically at this time we kind of say we cover pretty much the whole state of Connecticut, and I'm doing some marketing efforts over in New York State too. So yeah, we've grown incredibly.
Our outpatient, we have an outpatient office in New Milford that services that area and north of there. And then we have a big outpatient program here in Danbury. We probably at any given time have close to 400 clients involved in various programs of that outpatient department.
That's all the categories, right, of addictions?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But that service is almost everybody there comes from the 10-town area around here: Danbury, Ridgefield, Newtown, Bethel, New Fairfield, etc. Then our residential programs have really a statewide. Still, most of the people come from Region 5, the northwest corner. We also, second for our detox and our residential treatment, short-term residential treatment program, McDonough House, Region 1, which is Lower Fairfield County, is the second most prolific base for our referrals. But people come from all over the state, and as Kay said, even out of state. We're very conscious, though, we don't use Connecticut taxpayer dollars to service New York. We take the self-pay and insurance and third-party reimburse there. Folks coming in there from New York. Actually, our gambling, we have a residential gambling component where we get people. We've had people from New Jersey and Massachusetts in that program because it's developed.
Because that can happen any place.
It can, and it's developed. We've developed a pretty broad reputation as being pretty good at what we do on that. So,
just there's a curious thing. How can you get somebody away from gambling? Very hard, or do you lay cards on the table and says you can't play them?
Well, you know, one of the things they do.
Just a very short, as opposed to.
No, one of the things they do, and they sign. Some of them will sign notarized statements that are then we, at their request, send to the casino, and that statement says that they are consenting to be banned from the casino. And they have their picture there, and if they show up at the casino, they will be told that they can't come in, and they agree to that, and they get it notarized and so forth, and that's part of their treatment plan. Yeah, what we do, why the residential part of the inpatient is because oftentimes after a big loss, people become suicidal, and so we bring them into residential treatment for 5, 6 to 10 days. And then stabilize them, and then link them with an outpatient gambling support counselor in the area from which they came.
I wanted to touch a little bit on your, because you are a nonprofit, and I'm sure you get some United Way dollars and stuff.
Yes.
You know, just the sources of. Does the state of Connecticut support you? And and City of Danbury, I believe.
City of Danbury. Yeah. MCCA is quite large. We have over 150 full and part-time employees, and our total budget is a little bit over $8 million. So probably 2/3 of our money comes from the state. Most of it in fee-for-service.
Right.
They pay rather than grants. The state and most funders have moved away from grants and will pay fee-for-service, where so you have to actually service a client, an eligible client.
Somebody
to get
comes
reimbursed.
and then you get a reimbursement.
But we get help from the City of Danbury for our sobering center, which is we get help from the United Way for that program. We get help from the United Way for a special program for Latino services in this area. As you know, Latino population is sizable, and to be able to provide treatment in Spanish for people is
Right.
an important element of what we do. So we get some United Way money for that. But the city of Danbury, and I should say that the city of Danbury is the only municipality that funds us, and that's a big concern.
The
We think-
local towns.
Yeah, we think some of the other towns ought to be stepping up and
Because
doing
you
more.
do have people coming in
Absolutely.
from Richfield and Bethel,
Absolutely.
which this show covers also.
It's not a big city. It's not just a city problem. This
Right.
problem spans everywhere, and we think that some of the other towns in the area ought to be doing more. And we've made a policy decision also to locate facilities in other towns and not just have them located in Danbury. So
Right.
we have a grant application for another short-term residential treatment program, and we're not going to put it in Danbury. We're going to put it in another town.
It could go to
here.
Bethel or Richfield,
Yeah,
depending on
Richfield
how.
might go to Sharon, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, but
Right.
yeah.
Okay. And you do some fundraising also? You have like a fundraiser? Okay,
Yeah, I'll relate
Okay,
to that.
all right.
We actually have two major fundraisers throughout the year. One is the golf tournament, which we usually hold in the month of July, and you know, it's just like every other organization's golf tournament. That's really a key.
Is that the
fundraiser.
board's
Our
primary?
board member, John Allen, has been chairing that for years. I
Okay.
haven't heard if he's going to chair again this year, but he's
All
been
right.
doing that for a long time.
He's going to co-chair it with Ed Smith this year.
Ed
Oh, okay.
Smith. We'll
Understand,
see
yeah.
there. I learned
Yeah, see?
something
Yeah.
myself this evening. That's great. And then in the month of November, we hold our annual dinner, and that's again a fundraiser. And it's also a very informative evening. And this year was my first time attending, and I was very impressed. So it was great. So those are our two major
And
fundraisers.
does the board come from all of the towns in the area, or you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You try to cover the area.
Yes,
You know, so
absolutely.
A few from this town, a few from that town.
Right. Yep.
All right. So you know, it's fair enough to say a lot of your income is from fee for service, but you also have a significant amount of fundraiser. You got to make up the difference.
Right.
Right.
The reimbursements are not what they used to be, especially when you're talking about Medicaid reimbursements, which are everybody's suffering, and it's putting pressure on everybody.
Right.
I'm sure you have some people in that category.
You know, this year, Walnut Hill Community Church in Bethel, their Christmas Eve collection from services, they had, I think, 5 services Christmas Eve, and their collection goes to various charities worldwide, and part of it is going to MCCA. They decided to support housing, and MCCA is moving into transitional housing, and it was we were really quite touched by that a local church would give us a sizable donation.
That's great.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else will get the same idea. All right. Let's see here. Do you have a website where you can pretty much talk that might talk about what you do? I don't know, case.
www.mccaonline.com. mccaonline.com.
And do you have some kind of a confidential line if somebody thinks they have a family member that might have an addiction, or might be shy? You can talk to somebody without really committing.
Yes.
Is there a telephone number they can call for information?
Our main number is 203-792-4515.
All right. So you do that on a confidential basis.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. All our services.
We hear a lot these days about HIPAA, and well, MCCA is covered by HIPAA, but we've had confidentiality regulations for affecting our services for years and years, ever since these programs were started, and frankly, I almost got arrested one day. A cop was threatened to put me in handcuffs because I wouldn't divulge some information about a client, or whether the client was even known to us. So everything is absolutely confidential.
Yeah, the rules are the rules.
Yeah.
And
It was a young police officer who didn't know the regulations.
Well, when they're new, they don't know.
And he was concerned about, and I respect that, but, most of the police departments today are very well informed and very cooperative on that. So, but it's absolutely confidential.
I'm glad you didn't get arrested.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So's the board of directors.
Any other remarks that you'd like to make or areas? We've got a couple minutes left, and we had a couple extra questions on here, so I'm not 100% sure what you really want to highlight in the last couple of minutes.
Well, you know, one of the things that I would like to mention about MCCA, we were just commended by the Commissioner of the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services as one of only 10 organizations in the state out of about 250 that for 3 years in a row have been in the top 10 organizations rated for consumer or client or patient satisfaction with our services. And MCCA is the top rated behavioral health, that is mental health or addiction service program in the whole of Region 5. We're the top rated as it comes to client satisfaction.
Unless I'm looking at a word I can't pronounce, but what is your
recidivism?
Right.
We do follow-up studies for all of our clients in residential treatment and outpatient treatment within 90 to 120 days after leaving treatment. And we see on those self-reports from clients abstinence rates of up to 80%. Now, that's, you know, after 120 days after leaving treatment.
Right.
But we do know this, that the first probably 6 months after leaving a program are the most critical. And if people make it through the first 6 months,
most of them will stick with it.
They're going to stick with it, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then we also see from that study that people who are involved in self-help programs do much better than those that aren't. So we highly endorse and recommend that people get involved in that. But we're very proud of our results in that regard, and we're very proud of that of being a top-rated substance abuse agency in the state when it comes to client satisfaction.
Yeah, one more time, the website and the telephone number.
www.mccaonline.com, and the main number is 203-792-4515.
So folks out there, if you have somebody that may have a problem and you want to call in and get some information, or you want to go on the website and get in some information, this is your opportunity to do so. I want to thank you for tuning in to the show tonight, and I'm sure we'll have another interesting program next week for you to watch. And good night for now. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you then. And thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Wonderful.
Thank you.